We're now joined by political commentator John Buchan to discuss day two of the Council of the Federation Summit. John, thank you for the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, are we seeing genuine collaboration among premiers, or is this more about political messaging?
I think that it's genuine on their end. How much they'll be able to accomplish with the federal government is sort of up in the air at this point because there has been a lot of red tape in the past. And as the premiers mentioned, that's sort of the biggest barrier right now. So I think the federal government has shown that they are willing to sort of work with the provinces. So I'm optimistic that they can do something. Energy is our strength. So it's very, very important that we protect that industry and that we grow it.
And how would you assess the premier's tone toward the federal government today, cooperative or confrontational?
A little bit of both. I think that, and that's sort of what politics is. They're sort of giving the carrot and the stick at the same time. They're saying we're willing to work with you as long as you're willing to work with us. They also mentioned on a different clip about plastic being a huge problem regarding the trade barriers because right now we're treating it as like a toxic waste.
Mhm.
So it's really hard for American companies, and that's one thing that the Americans want to see dropped. So I think that the new federal government might be a little bit different than the past, where I do think that there's opportunity to remove a lot of the red tape and help the economy grow because that's the number one thing right now. If we're focused too much on the environment and not on the economy, then the country will continue to stagnate.
And healthcare has been a major topic. Do you think that any real progress is being made, or is this just more pressure on Ottawa?
Same thing. I think that with healthcare, yeah, obviously it's up to the provinces how things are dealt with. So it's sort of what they're always haggling about is how much money they can receive or how much money they're paying. Can they hold on to their own money? So, and again, I think that there's a lot to be done there. I think that typically what we'll see coming out of these agreements is a lot of money being thrown around. How much of that money actually affects things like waiting rooms and access to doctors is yet to be seen. Like we do still have a lot of barriers for doctors coming here. So there's a lot of work to be done. But so far, I think it's been pretty collaborative. I mean, those were all right wing prime ministers, or sorry, premiers, and they're dealing pretty well with the federal government that's on the left. So, well, maybe on the center at this point. But I'm optimistic that, and in a time of crisis, you do sort of pull together. And I think that we're seeing the premiers and the federal government work together on a lot of these issues.
There's a lot of debate over Indigenous consultation and Indigenous groups feeling as though they're being left out of the conversation. Are we seeing progress on that front?
Yeah, well, we don't have like the country doesn't have a choice but to
Mhm.
negotiate because the courts have already decided that they have a lot of rights when it comes to pipelines and how things work. So we have to sit down with them. Where in the past it was a little bit different. A lot of the laws were sort of in the favor of the federal government. So all the premiers today looked willing, and they all acknowledged that they have to sit down with these groups. Same with the federal government. Now, I do think you will run into situations in the future where there is some sparring and debating over, where pipelines are going to go and how they're going to go through. So they might have to rework some things, which might cost more for the pipelines. But ultimately, I think that it's important to consult with the Indigenous groups because they're a huge part of the country. They have been here for a long time, obviously, and I think that it's a positive step to see the courts and the premiers and the federal government sort of willing to sit down. Again, I'm hoping that the Indigenous groups, are also willing to sit down and come to an agreement because the prosperity of the country is important for everybody from coast to coast.
Interprovincial trade is often discussed but rarely addressed in concrete terms. Do you think we'll see any movement on that front based on what we've seen happen today?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I think that it's going to help bring prices down. I think competition's good. We always acknowledge in a market, the more competition you have and the more access you have, the better it is for the consumer. So I'm excited about that. And I think that there's a willingness right now with all of the country, based off of the tariff war, to actually get this done because in the past the barriers that were there were sort of lingering. Now everybody seems to be pretty unified and saying like we need to look at our own markets, we need to look at maybe the EU as well. But if one good positive things come out of the trade war, it's that now we're seeing a lot of movement on energy and a lot of movement on interprovincial trade. So I do believe that there will be a lot coming out of it. How it looks yet to be seen, but I'm sure over the next year or so, it's going to take a while to get everything rolling. But over the next year or so, we might start seeing some framework.
Well, John, thank you so much for the time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.